Okay.
Okay, we're going to be live in about 5 seconds.
Okay. Where's everybody? Schläft noch? Log Boimer celebration, watching Hasuda-thon. Oh, Baruch Hashem, they made a lot of money. It's really nice.
Yeah, the U.S. was it the same campaign, Toronto and the U.S. together, or was it separated campaigns?
Yeah, it was one campaign. That United for Protection is actually a Lubavitcher website.
Because my kids were watching and they tell me it's $10, $18, and all of a sudden, Machine Heider, $36,000. Bam.
Yeah.
So ich habe getanzt bei 2 chasanas, because my sister made a chasana, and simultaneously my cousin made a chasana. Both in New York. They have no idea what social distancing means in New York. No masks, throngs of people. I mean, when I say throngs, I mean, let's say 100, 150 people, no distancing, everyone's together. I was like watching it, and like I was afraid I would catch it over the phone, over the internet.
Oh, we saw it by Akiva's wedding.
That's right.
Where was it held?
So it's interesting. My sister told me that they're not going to tell her, the Mechutin wasn't going to tell her until 3 p.m. where the wedding was held, because they don't want anyone to know. And all of the guests, besides the Mechutanim, they were told that if they were coming from out of New York, when you cross the Verrazano, call us and we'll tell you where to go. So it was in a secret location. They didn't want to get busted. And the same thing, one wedding was in Brooklyn, one was in Borough Park, and one was in Williamsburg. It ended up being in their original hall where they were going to make it Chatchila. So, but they didn't. You mean
the halls are opening themselves up
in a very clandestine fashion, because they don't want anybody to know, and that's why the wedding is over by 8 o'clock. They start at 3, it's done by 8. They start at 4, done by 8, because they don't want anybody. They don't want anyone checking. I'm sure the authorities are probably sniffing around during when normal weddings operate. So it's not during the normal time, and it's it's in and out.
I don't know what happened to asking Das Torah. That's crazy. I'm sorry.
Well,
Mazel tov. I think it's wonderful. I'm happy they got married.
Well, it's more than that. There's Das Torah that goes along with it, because who's Masada Kedushin? If I asked Rabbi Lowy to come be Masada Kedushin by a wedding that didn't comply, he would say no. So which role?
Somebody asked me if that's why the Mechitin was a Masada Kedushin by Akiva.
So I just want to, being that we're on YouTube Live, I want to stay away from names.
Yeah.
Because anything we do or say can be used in the court of law.
Yeah, no, it's. Did you see that letter from the young Israel in Deerfield?
Yeah. and not only that, even to get on the Zoom meeting or to get access to the live YouTube broadcasting that I had, they didn't give out the thing freely. It was sent to me after the wedding had already started, and I was told that I'm not allowed to forward it to anybody. Okay, so I cheated a little bit, but they don't want any. They didn't even want it broadcasted, because if it gets out. If it gets into the hand of the wrong person, they'll send it to the authorities. Here in Toronto, there was a woman in Thornhill that was reporting any weddings to authorities. Did you see what happened yesterday by the Cheder? The Cheder was giving out.
Drive-by. They had a drive-by.
Yeah, they had a drive-by. So there's a neighbor who lives on Sandringham, so just south of the school, 2 houses in from Bathurst, came out and was getting in the face of one of the parents who was online on Sandringham, screaming, "You people, you're terrible, we hate you, and everyone hates you." And she had a dozen eggs that she was ready to throw. So they told her, go ahead, throw it. We've already called the cops. We'd love to have this on videotape. Please throw it. And she was going on and on and on. It was sent into Matziv, because what happened was there were a lot of groups that went around yesterday. Singing, just going up and down the street singing. So different people who were on these groups were posting the different reactions that they got, both positive and negative. So that this parent says, listen, I got the best reaction of all. Let's see you top this, and posted that video on the Matzif. It's pretty amazing.
Well, they've had some problems with the neighbors.
And so they told her, don't worry, we're moving out.
Yeah, but somebody else is moving
but
in.
But Bubba's moving in. They have no idea. They have no idea. They're going to beg for the cheder to come back by the time they're done.
That's terrible.
No, but everyone knows she's a crazy neighbor. She's a crazy.
What was she objecting to exactly?
That they're just there. You people are here. Like there's traffic. I guess every morning during carpool, cars probably line up on Sandringham, and they hate the traffic.
I think they're lining up yesterday to pick up Pekala.
That's right. Morning. Yeah, in all of the schools, it was very nice. I think all the schools had their kids come do drive-bys with their Bames houses to make a connection, which was very nice. Okay, geweldig. So Lag Boimer was very, very nice, Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem, we had the usual. We had arrests, we had fights, all the normal Lag Boimer excitement.
Who got arrested?
No, none in Toronto.
Oh.
In New York and in Israel, because they totally ignore regulation there. It's very funny. It's just like, no, everyone like together and tight. It was just, and not only that, there were older people there. It wasn't like 30 and younger. There were many people that were 60s and 70s that were
right. It's like there's no problem, right? Like nobody died, nobody.
I don't know why people aren't afraid.
My sister told me across the street, she sent me a video. There must have been over 100 people dancing around the bonfire. And then all of a sudden the police showed up and they figured, oh, here it goes. And that's all they said. They went on their loudspeaker and said, please lower the music a little bit. We're getting complaints.
Wow.
Where was this?
In the bar park.
They gave up.
Yeah.
I'm sure after they attacked de Blasio for being anti-Semitic, he's telling the police to go easy because all he needs now is to inflame it.
Yeah. Listen, you got to give people a little bit of an outlet.
That's right. Like five-ish always says, if there's no outlet, you can't plug. Listen, on our street, I mean, we had a big Lag Boimer thing, but it was properly socially distanced. You must have heard what was going on by us with a loudspeaker and singing. It was wild.
I had in my place too.
Yeah, but you also it was like, but it was all properly distanced.
But I heard the fire trucks came to
who?
This Breakrest.
Not to my house.
To Baruch Sturm.
Oh, so see now there's a third location I didn't even know about. Like I know that there's two between just west of Raja. Baruch Sturm is closer to Amir, so I guess he had by him. I don't know if he has a minion, but I guess he has a Lag Boimer.
Not a minion. He had a Lag Boimer thing. Yeah.
But we have
David, you have any idea, David, if historically Lag Boimer was a big thing 100 years ago or 200 years ago?
Well, are you on the chat from, not chat, he sent, there's something called Emailim Batera by Moshe.
Yeah, I used to be on it. I stopped it.
Oh,
I gave it to you, right.
That's something very fascinating on Lag Boimer. It's like he debunked it.
Yeah. I got that last year. He basically said that the whole idea of having a fire, dancing around the fire, is from the Amorim.
He even questions whether the Rishbi is buried there in Meron.
When I was in Yeshiva, they told us that the Rashbi goes on vacation for Lag Boimer. It's too noisy for him. He moves out that day. He comes back. Okay, so I guess we have a hard Gemara today. We're starting a new parak that involves some complicated concepts. So I guess we should get started. It's up to head of the Gemara. Before we start, we have to talk about this week's sponsorship. I'm not aware if there's any specific sponsorship, but if there's not, then the broadcast will be sponsored. All those people who were on the sponsor list before, and the Russian should help that they should the learning should be schools for them Shoma, and they should be made a for us to get us out of our cabin fever seclusion. Okay, Zok the Heilige Gemara, Zok the Heilige Mishnah. Klal Gadol Amru B'Shabbos. So what the Gemara here is going to be discussing is how many Karbonos Chatos you bring under what circumstances. So we all know that if someone is over an Aveira, he eats chaylev. And let's say he doesn't know that chaylev is asur. And he eats chaylev, not one kazais, he eats chaylev many times. He can eat it for 4 weeks. He's eating every day chaylev. And then he finds out that chaylev is asur. He only brings one carbon. And the reason why he only would bring one carbon is because
he's going to die prematurely anyway. It's all that fat.
Because of the fat. So he only brings one carbon because it was one haloma. Bringing a chatas is based on being unaware of something. And he was unaware of one thing the entire time. It was not multiple halomas, and therefore one is chayav only one chatas. However, if someone knows that eating chaylev is asur, and then he forgets, he eats chaylev, and then afterwards he remembers that it's asur to eat chaylev, so he has a chiyuv chatas triggered. Well, what if he forgets again, and then again eats chaylev, and then finds out that he did wrong? Then he has to bring another chatas, because for every time he did an aveira and he forgot something, he will be chayav. Now, by Shabbos, there's actually two psukim that are somewhat contradictory, that the Gemara, the Rishonim, that are balancing to find out when you bring when one brings multiple chatois, and when one will only bring one chatos. So it says V'shamru b'nei Yisrael to Shabbos. That's our favorite Shabbos pasuk. It usually immediately precedes Alachayim. So and that says there's only one Shabbos, but then it says Es Shabsosai Tishmaru. My multiple Shabboses you should watch, and you should keep sacred. So we have something that sort of lumps everything in to one, and we have another pasuk that seems to make them into multiples, and it's that balance that we're looking for. So let's see what the Mishnah says. Kol hashekech ikar Shabbos. If one forgot that there's even something called Shabbos, but also malachas harbe, b'shabbos harbe. So he totally violated Shabbos, doing many malachas, multiple weeks, and then someone teaches him that there's something called Shabbos. So it was one halam. He forgot that there was Shabbos. So the halacha is einei chayev ela chatas achas. That person is only chayev one chatas for the multiple violations of Shabbos. So I think it's worthwhile just looking in Rashi for a second. The third Rashi on the parak ein chayev achas, but Gemara Yalaf lo shmira achas l'shabbos harbe. The Shmir Achas l'Shabbos Harbe, which is as Shabsosai Tishmaru, or Shmir l'Chol Shabbos for Shabbos, which is the Shamru B'Nei for Shabbos. Mustaver the Chiksiv Shmir Achas l'Shabbos Harbe, when it says one Shmir for multiple Shabbos, Ki Hagav Niksiv is probably referring to this case, the Kula Chadash Kabahi, the Carbon Ashog Kosi. We look at it all like one big shogig because he forgot one fact, that there's something called Shabbos, and therefore he will bring one chatas for multiple violations on multiple Shabbos. However, hayedei ikar Shabbos. What if someone knows what ikar Shabbos is? Meaning, Rashi says he knows that there's such a thing called Shabbos, and he knows that there's a lot of rules associated with Shabbos that outlaw certain malachas. V'osa malachas harbe, and he did many malachas, v'shabbos harbe, on many Shabbos. Then chayiv I'll call Shabbos for Shabbos. Then he's chayiv for each Shabbos. So he knew that there was ikar Shabbos, but every week he forgot that it was Shabbos. So his halama was about the fact that there was Shabbos. He's chayiv I'll call Shabbos for Shabbos. Now this is a matter of great contention between Rashi and Tosfos. So let's first see what Rashi says, and then I'll speak out Tosfos. But also malachas harbe b'shabbos harbe. Zok Rashi, what is it that he forgot? Al yidei shigag Shabbos, sheshachach sheshabbos hayoyim. So every Shabbos he had amnesia and he forgot that today was Shabbos. Now, how do we know that's what it means? V'divatani seifa hayidei shehu Shabbos. Here it says the case that we're discussing. The Mishnah describes as hayidei ikar Shabbos. The next case that we discuss will be Hayedeh Shahu Shabbos. So Hayedeh Shahu Shabbos meaning I know that today is Shabbos. Hayedeh Ikar Shabbos, Rashi wants to say, does not mean I know that today is Shabbos. It means I know there's such a concept of Shabbos, but in fact I don't know that today is Shabbos. That's what Rashi says.
I just want to point out, Zalman, that it's not so far-fetched. If a fellow goes away and miscalculates the days, then he will forget that every day is that every Shabbos or every Shabbos is Shabbos, even though it's gone by many weeks.
That's right. And Rashi is going to address your point exactly and give us a twist on that. So Zokt Rashi, Nechlal the ratio with the Ein Yudei Shu Shabbos, but also Malachas Harbe, B'Shabbos Harbe, the Indian Zeh, not knowing that it was Shabbos, well, I know that it time Shachat. So Kum Techos, he never knew in between his Averis that he did in Aver. So then it's Chayav al Kol Shabbos to Shabbos. And here's the important Rashi. Chatos Achas L'Chol Shabbos. He'll only have to bring one Chatos for each Shabbos because he didn't forget about multiple Malachas. Each Shabbos, he forgot that it was Shabbos. Correct Rashi, an obvious kasha. He had no idea. Since he lost track of that time, like Chaim Tzvi is saying, he wouldn't have known in between that he violated Shabbos. So why should he bring multiple chatayos, one for each Shabbos? It should also be looked like one big forgetting. So why is it that he has to bring a separate chatas for each Shabbos? That is the question that we're struggling with. Every Shabbos he forgot that it was Shabbos. He never ever knew in between that he violated Shabbos. And finally, he got to a calendar and he realized retroactively that he violated all those Shabbosos. Why is it that he has to bring a chatos for every single Shabbos? That is the problem that we're dealing with. Even though he didn't know. The Helam Echad, who, and we say, Helam Echad, it's one forgetting. Amrinon, this is the Chiddush Otzum of Rashi. Amrinon Yomim Shem Beintayim Havin Yediyah L'Chalek. Even though he never knew that he violated Shabbos, but since there was 7 days in between each of the days that he did a malacha, she efsher shalishama bentayim sha'osayoin have a Shabbos. It's impossible that a guy goes 7 days and doesn't find out that that day was Shabbos. Ella shalanischaloi b'malacha shenasuboy. But of course, when he finds out during the week that he must have violated Shabbos, he just can't remember what exactly he did. So he doesn't even know at that point if he violated Shabbos. Ushkoga kamaisa mishum Shabbosu. But the forgetting was all of Shabbos. Mishum Shabbos hu davoi. V'hadi siyadalei beni beni. And he found out in between the Shabbos. Hilchach kol chad Shabbos chad shkogahi. Umizut Rashi al harbi malachas shebachol Shabbos, on each of the multiple malachas that he did on each Shabbos. They're lo mechayev alachada, because the kula Shabbos chad shkoga. The whole forgetting was not about a specific malacha of tzasser. He just didn't know that it was Shabbos. The l'shogag malachas, the idea who shamalachas asuras. He knew that all the malachas that were aser. Allah Shabbos and the shogag, his shogag was he didn't know that was Shabbos. So Rashi says, since it's impossible to go a week without having Shabbos, we consider that he knew in between that it was Shabbos. A little bit difficult to understand. Tosfos doesn't like it at all because Tosfos asks, maybe he did. How do you know that it dawned on him for sure that there was a Shabbos in between? Maybe he didn't. So how could you just take it for granted? So Tosfos learns that it's just because of the Gzeres HaKosov. We do have a Gzeres HaKosov that splits up. Sometimes you have one Chatah, sometimes you don't have one, sometimes you have multiple Chatahs. So it's a Gzeres HaKosov. Why, in this case, where every week, 4 or 5 weeks in a row, he forgot that the day was Shabbos, why you bring multiple Chatahs? Because really, it's one halom. And one nafkamina in between Rashi and Tosfos would be, what about a week where there was Yom Kippur in between? So on the week that there was Yom Kippur in between, according to Rashi, that the only reason why I'm chayav for each Shabbos is because it's impossible that 7 days should pass, and I don't realize that I must have passed Shabbos. If Yom Kippur passes, it's quite possible that I didn't know that there was Yom Kippur at all. So according to Rashi, you shouldn't be chayav for that Yom Kippur or Chatas. But according to Tosfos, that it's a Gzeres HaKosov, that each Shabbos is for itself, it would make sense to say that he would also bring the Chatas for that Yom Kippur in between the two Shabbos because of the Gzeres HaKosov.
Isn't there a halacha that says if you're somewhere where and you somehow you forgot which day was Shabbos, you Sheshes Yomim Tavod, and you keep a Shabbos, you designate a day for Shabbos.
Yeah.
And then if you realize, a year later, which day is really Shabbos, so again, it was one Helam. It was, so why should he be mechuyev for every Shabbos and Shabbos?
So you're asking Akasha Rashi.
Yeah.
If there's a custom, you could appreciate it. But if, according to Rashi, where we say since 7 days passed, it must be that it's considered a different halama, that's a little bit difficult concept to understand. In the Quran, it is a little bit of a difficult concept to understand, but that is what Rashi says. Now, I remember I was once in court, and most people, a traffic court, and most people that go to traffic court don't have a clue of what to do. And sometimes even the justice of the peace has to coach them. Now you do this, because usually they just get up and start talking. And that's not the way it's supposed to work. First, the prosecution makes the introduction. Then they ask you for your plea. Then they have their witness. There's a process, but people don't know, just start talking. So sometimes the police will accuse them of doing something, and they'll say, "Well, I didn't know." So the judge always tells them, ignorance of the law is not an excuse. So the Torah actually tells us the same thing. The Rambam says the reason why you're chayiv to bring a carbon on the shogeg is because ignorance of the law is not an excuse. It's incumbent upon us to know the law. And if we know the Haggadah to the Mishnah Berurah says someone who doesn't know Hilchos Shabbos well will for sure end up violating, and that's not an excuse. So
No, but we're talking about an inus, okay? Something happened. He got shipwrecked. Okay, stuff happens. Or he had an accident, and he woke up in China, in the middle of China, and he was in the hospital for a few weeks. He doesn't know which day is Shabbos.
It's incumbent upon him to stop and to do research to find out. The only time we say it's an oinus is oimer mutter oinusu. Someone who never knew that there was such a thing called Shabbos, a tinik shenishba, is oimer mutter. Oimer mutter is an oinus because he had no clue.
David, one thing you got to remember that the 7-day work week is universal, unless like you say he got shipwrecked.
That's what I said. Shipwrecked.
Okay,
shipwrecked.
You don't see Gilligan never had to bring a carbon.
I saw Rabbi Yitzchak Breitowitz answer the shipwreck shaila. He says you should avoid malachas deraisa every day, and only do what you need to do.
You know that my brother-in-law of Toli Sternbuch once was flying from Israel to Toronto, and he got on the plane and took a sleeping pill, and the next thing he knew is he woke up in an operating room in a emergency room in Greece. So he didn't know where he was or nothing.
What were they doing? Harvesting his organs?
Someone thought that he was out cold. He was out cold. He took a sleeping pill because he was going on LL, and he didn't want he was cramped. So he figured he'll sleep the whole time. He won't know where he is. He woke up and talk about getting shipwrecked. It can happen to people.
Listen, it once happened to me. I was, when you leave Israel, you're always very tired because you're running around, you're up late. So I got on the plane in Israel and I fell asleep as soon as I sat down, and I woke up when they landed and you feel the plane shake. So I literally slept for like 11 hours straight. And I woke up, I said, you think anybody heard me snoring? And the guy 3 rows back said, I did.
What are you talking about going to Eretz Yisrael and getting shipwrecked? Moti told me that you guys got shipwrecked almost a bunch of times.
That was a scary trip. Yeah, it actually scared me. It actually scared me. It happened on a Friday. I was so afraid I wouldn't go near a boat until Sunday. Okay, so up to Helig Gemara weiter. So to Helig Mishnah weiter. So far we have 2 cases. Case A is someone who never knew there was something called Shabbos, or someone who forgot that there was ever anything called Shabbos. Case number 2 is he knows there's Shabbos, but multiple weeks he didn't realize that today was Shabbos, and there you'd have to bring a separate carbon for each Shabbos. Now we have our 3rd case. Hayedea Shu Shabbos. Someone who knows that it's Shabbos. Oh, I'm sorry. I wanted to add one more little interesting note of Hakdama that Rabbi Elfin spoke out. And that is the very first Shkaga says the Sefer HaIkrim. The very first Shkaga was also someone who didn't do his due diligence. HaKadosh Baruch Hu punished Adam Rishon for eating from the das. He says, what did I do wrong? Chava gave it to me. So the answer was, you can't just eat anything Chava gives you. You have to check to make sure it has a good hechsher. You have to check to make sure it's incumbent on you to do your research to make sure that everything you're doing is okay and not trust anybody blindly. So, and Adam Arishan, in fact, was punished for it. Now, he got a bigger punishment than just having to bring a carbon chatas. But the Sefer Ikrim says that was, in fact, the first sin. That was the first sin. So it's interesting how that Adam Rishon, according to the Sefer Ikrim, did an Aver b'Shoigig.
How do you get Shoigig? He had an explicit command, and he ignored it.
Maybe it could be he didn't realize that the fruit that she gave him was from the Eitzadas. Because he says she gave it to me. Well, that's not an excuse. It must be, if she gave him something that he knew and was conscious of the fact that it was usher, so what type of excuse is that she gave it to me? So it must be that he thought.
You're saying he didn't know that was from the Eitzadas? That's
what the Sefer Ikrim Tanya is. And there was a shogig, and the Tanya on him was he didn't check to see where it came from. Okay. So last night when I sat down to supper, I asked my wife, where did you get this soup from? She almost knocked me over the head. So much for shogig.
That's why David is so perturbed. That's why David is so perturbed, because now he's got to ask his wife where everything comes from.
You better ask nicely. Okay.
That's a big finish. That's a big
actually, the halacha is we hold Eilecha Dem B'Yisurim, and we hold a woman is neman on her kitchen, so you don't even have to ask her. But
so hold on. So a shoigig affects the an inus. Does he call this an inus or?
No, it was Adam Arishan was over according to Sefer Ikrim the aver that Adam Arishan ate from the Tzdas was a shoigig.
So
and he had the book thrown at him for that.
The book, the all of humanity forever. Okay, it's are dying. We're suffering from a coronavirus because of that. So that's a pretty tough punishment for somebody who didn't know what he was eating.
Yeah, that's right. The point is that ignorance is not an excuse. Now, Haydei Shabbos. What happens if every week he knew it was Shabbos? Well, also malachas harbe, the Shabbos was harbe, and he did multiple malachas. So what he didn't know was that this action was usher. He didn't know that bishul was usher. He didn't know that tereya was usher. He didn't know that koitzer was usher. So then chayiv al kol av malacha umalacha. You're chayiv for every av malacha. So that also opens up a whole other issue of ovis and toldos. So let's have a look at what Rashi says. Av malacha denokat lav lemute toldos. The intent of the Mishnah is not to say that if someone committed a tolda of a malacha, that he would not have to bring a chatas for it. Because the huadin la toldas, if he does a tolda of a malacha, a tolda does not mean that it's not usher, and a tolda doesn't even mean it's not usher midaraisa. A tolda is usher. The main point is you're only chayiv one chatas for each category violated. So if you did a tolda of malacha A and a tolda of malacha B, avada there would be two chatois. It's elalamute hechad av a base toldas avechad. If you did two toldas and they were both a tolda of the same av, or av a tolda shaloi, or you did an avloch and it's tolda, that would not get you a chiv carbon for each violation. Rather, it's the category of avera or the av, and anything in the av umbrella is going to be one chatos. Like we're going to see in a moment, that if you do multiple malachas that are similar to a malacha, meaning shtei toilers shalav echad, then einei chayiv ela chatos echad, because it's as if it's as if you're doing the same malacha again and again, always unaware that this particular malacha is also. The only time you say that you bring a separate chatos for each malacha is only if each malacha that was done is a different av. Or if you did it multiple Shabbos, so what you forgot was that it was Shabbos, then you would bring multiple chatois. So for instance, let's say someone didn't know that Zareya was Asr, and he did the Isra of Zareya on one Shabbos, and then the next Shabbos again he did the Isra of Zereah. There he would only bring one chatos because his haloma, what he didn't know about, was one thing. He didn't know that this malacha was usher. But if he did that same malacha 2 weeks in a row, and he knew the malacha was usher, but 2 weeks in a row he didn't know that it was Shabbos, so the same action that would actually net him 2 chatos because he forgot about Shabbos twice and he knew about them in between. So the same action will have a different halacha depending on what exactly the person became unaware of. Zok the Heilige Gemara, actually Zok the Heilige Mishnah weiter. Ha'oisa malachas harbe me'ein malacha achas. If one does multiple malachas, but they're all in the same category, they're all either told us of the same malacha or an av and it's tolda. And yechayiv al chatas achas will only be mechuyev one chatas for that because it's one category of malachas that's not involved. Zok the Heilige Gemara. The first question the Gemara asks is on the grammar, on the syntax. My time at Tana Klal Gadol. It could have said Klal Amr B'Shabbos. What's up? It's Klal Gadol Amr B'Shabbos. Why is this such a big Klal? Zok the Gemara. Ilema mishum de kaboy lemisne oid Klal Acher. Tana Klal Gadol. If it's because the Mishnayos later on the pair are going to introduce to us other Klals, and in those other Klals there weren't so many details. In our Klal here, there's 3 categories, but in the Klal that the next Mishnah or the later Mishnah discusses, it doesn't have as many details in it, and that's why it says Klal Gadol. And then you would say the Gabe Shvius Nami in Maseches Shvius, the Mishnah also says Klal Gadol. Again, the Gavoy Lemisni Oid Klal Achar. In Maseches Shvius also there's a second Mishnah that discusses a Klal that's not as big as the first Klal. Tana Klal Gadol, it says Klal Gadol, but that's not a good solution to explain why the Tana uses the word Klal Gadol, because it doesn't work out by Meiser. Because by Meiser, the Gatali, by Meiser, the Mishnah says, Oid Klal Acher. It also has a secondary Klal. There's a first Klal and a second Klal. But Tana Klal Gadol. And by Meiser, the Tana doesn't use the word Klal Gadol. If you're going to tell me any time the Tana is going to be introducing a second Klal that's not as detailed as the first Klal, the Tana would automatically express the first Klal with the title of Klal Gadol, then why didn't the Tana do that in Maseches Meiser? Amar Bishop Bar Avin, I'll tell you why. Shabbos or Shvius, the Isbu, Avos V'Toldos, Shabbos and Shvius, which is Shemitah, that has Avos Malachos and has Toldos Malachos, Tana Gadol, it uses the word Gadol. Meiser, the less by Avos V'Toldos, Meiser does not have Avos V'Toldos, Loi Tana Klal Gadol. So we're aborting our first reason, and we're saying that the only time a Tana would use the word Klal Gadol when he's discussing halacha has nothing to do with other klalim that might be discussed in that Masechta. It's all about the actual Isser that we're talking about. If it's an Isser that has Avos and Toldos, then the Tana will refer to them with a Klal Gadol. But if it's a halacha or an Isser that does not have Avos and Toldos, the Tana will only use the word Klal. Fact to Gemara, that's a nice try, and it works. But according to Bar Kapora, it won't work. Bar Kapora, the Tani Klal Gadol b'Meiser, Bar Kapora does learn in the Mishnah of Meiser the word Klal Gadol. Well, since Meiser does not have Avos and doesn't have Toldos, why is it that Bar Kapora does Goyris by Meiser Klal Gadol, my Avos and my Toldos Ika? Where do you find Avos and Toldos by Meiser? Elalav, Hanutaima, the reason for the Tana using the word Klal Gadol must be another reason, and it must be because Gadol Onche Shel Shabbos Yosy Mishal Shvius. The onus of Shabbos is greater than the onus of Shemitah. The Shabbos Isa bein betolish bein b'mechover, because the Isra of Shabbos you can be over malachas on produce that are mechover, like if you cut something down, that's called koitzer. Or Shareya, there's so many malachas that you do on produce that's connected to the ground, but there's also malachas you can do batolish, because you could take a wheat stalk and you could grind it, which would be toichin. You could knead it, which would be lush. So there's malachas involved even after it's cut down. Vilu shviyas, but shmita batolish lesa b'mechobrisa. Shmita only has isurim in the tolish and not with and not with mechuber. I'm sorry, only with mechuber, not with tolish. So since Shabbos is greater than Shvius, Shabbos gets the word klal gadol. So why does Shvius get the word klal gadol? Because Shvius is greater than Meiser. The gadol oincha shall Shvius yaishem in the Meiser. Dilu Shvius isa bein b'meichel adam bein b'meichel behema. The iser of Shemitah applies no matter what is growing, even if it's only Michael Behema, there would also be an Isser Shvius on it. The Meiser, the Michael Adam Isa. Meiser only applies to items that people eat. The Michael Behema Lessa, Meiser doesn't apply. So, Oy Bezoi, why is it that? So why? I'm sorry. So Kum Techois, by Meiser also it shouldn't use the word klal gadol because Meiser is also weaker. So Oy Bezoi ulabakapar the tani klal gadol. Now that we know Bakapar does say klal gadol, the Meiser, so Meiser must also be more chomer than something else, because based on our reasoning now, the Tana only uses klal gadol by an item that we could find another item that doesn't have a sir or an isser. So what item could we find that's even less severe than Meiser? And that the Gemara says, the Meiser gadol anshul shal Meiser yoshim mishal peah, because Meiser is a greater isser than peah. To the Meiser isa b'te'ena b'yer, you have to take Meiser from figs and from vegetables. You peah lesser b'te'ena b'yer. Peah, there's no chiyuv peah on figs, and who in other fruits as well. The yerk and vegetables. It's none. Klal omer b'peah. They set a rule by peah. Kol shuhu oichel. Anything that's a food. The nishmar, and we could store it away, and you can keep it for long term. The giduloi min haaretz, and it grows from the ground. Ulakitosech ka'achas, and it's harvested at one time. In other words, you don't harvest one fig at a time as it becomes ripe. Rather, all the figs ripen at the same time. By a fig, we know that the whole tree does not ripen at the same time. We take each one as it becomes ripe. And umachnis alakiyim. And I actually touched wrong. Nishmar means it's protected. Machnis lakim means you take it in and you store it. Those will be chayav b'peah. And now we'll get into the specifics of what these rules are, and we'll see what each rule disqualifies from the chiyuv b'peah. Oichel, it has to be a food. Lemute shvichis stis v'kaitza. And Rashi says these are roots that are used as dyes. They're not eaten, so they would not have the chiyuv b'peah, although there is a isser shmita on them. V'nishmar lemute hefker. You only have a chiyuv of peah on something that you keep. Hefker, you would not have a chiyuv of peah. The gidulei min haaretz, it has to. Now, by the way, nishmar applies to shemitah as well. So nishmar is not one of the things that makes shemitah more chomer than peah, because peah has that rule as well. The gidulei min haaretz.
I thought we have to be medama to Meiser, not to. Meiser is klal gadol versus peah, right?
I'm sorry. I got mixed up. You're right. We're comparing it to Meiser. That's correct. But Meiser, you don't bring on something that's hefker either. So on all of these items that we're listing as qualifications for peah, most of them Meiser have as well. There's only going to be two items that we're going to find peah gets disqualified from, but Meiser doesn't, and that by definition makes Meiser more chomer, and that's why according to Bar Kapara, it says klal gadol by Meiser. So let's have a look. So oichel lemute sviche stims v'kaitze, and Rashi tells us those are used as dyes, so there's no chiyuv peah, but there would be a chiyuv Meiser. And nishmar, it has to be watched lemute hefker. The gidulim, it has to grow from the ground. Lemute chamenu patrios, which are mushrooms and truffles. They don't grow from the ground, although they're found in the ground. Ulekitosei ka'achas, they all have to be harvested at one time. Lemute tena, which excludes a fig, which each fig is picked off the tree when it becomes ripe. Umachnis lakim. So zok lemute yerek, that takes away yerek, because a yerek doesn't last long. The ilagabi meisertan, and if you're comparing it to meiser, we have a different rule. Klal amar b'meiser, kol shu oichel. So that is the same as peah. The nishmar again is the same as peah. The gidulim in the haaretz again is the same as peah. Chayav b'meiser. But there's two items that do not disqualify anything from Meiser, and that is filu l'kiktazek ha'achas is not one of the things that you need for Meiser. So So therefore, you would be mechuyev to take meiser from fruits, even though they don't all ripen at the same time. And you also, it doesn't have to be something you take into store. Which means vegetables. Even vegetables will have a chiyuv meiser, and that's midrabanan. Therefore, loitnam. So at the end of the day, according to Bar Kapara, there's a way where meiser is more chashuv than peah, or has more isurim than peah, and that's why it uses the word klal gadol. Those who don't goyres klal gadol by meiser will learn that the reason for the differences could be like what the second thing is, that it has avos and toldos, and meiser doesn't have avos and toldos. That's why he doesn't use klal gadol by meiser. Now, one of the kashas that I believe Tosfos asks, that's a very, very obvious kasha. I believe he asks it, unless it's the article that asks it, but I think I saw it somewhere. Let me just see. Is when it, I think it's over here. See what it says over here. Somebody asks, when you're talking about the chomer of Shabbos over Shvius, why is it that you have to say that on Shabbos it's relevant? Sai by Mechober and Sai by Tolish, say Shabbos is more chomer than Shvius because Shabbos has an Isra Skila. There's the most obvious reason why it is that Shabbos is more chomer than Shvius. So that's a shaila why the Gemara didn't pick that, but I don't have a teres to it. So probably the article mentions that kasha, and says
just,
to go somewhere to look.
On the other hand, if you're over Shvius, you get Gullus and you get the Teichacha.
That's this week. That's this week's parsha.
That's right. And so,
but it's not a direct. It's not as direct as by Shabbos. It says Tirza Shabbos sell, but it doesn't say. It's not like Shabbos where it says if you're over in Shabbos, there's skila. It says that the Veira of Golus and the Veira of becoming impoverished comes from people who are over Shvius. But that might not necessarily mean if they do it once. It might mean if they're totally lax and they ignore that mitzvah. Unlike Shabbos, which for the one violation alone gets you a chiyuv misa.
But if you're over Shabbos, you don't get the teichacha and you don't get thrown out of Eretz Yisrael.
Well, you get thrown out of the world.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But Shvius, it seems that if not everybody was over Shvius, right? And yet everybody gets thrown out. Golus is for everybody.
So what it must mean is that the Aveir of Shvius, if it's ignored, will eventually lead to terrible consequences. But that's very different than an oynish for doing a single issue.
Right. But yet it's very serious. You can make an argument that it's a more serious Aveir than Shabbos.
In a way, but we don't know what the punishment is for somebody who totally flaunts, if a generation totally flaunts Shabbos, we don't know what the ramifications to that are. So I think the Torah is telling us, if you're going to totally ignore the whole concept of Shvius, you're going to get yourself into big trouble. I don't know what the trouble would be for people who totally ignore the concept of Shabbos. But your point is well taken. The only Toicha in the Torah, the most severe unjim that you ever find anywhere, are only said in relation to Shvius.
That's right.
But clearly, they're very serious violations. I mean, there's two parshas fully dedicated to seeing how fast Meyer Tenenbaum could lane. Right, so that's a serious Shvius violation. Okay, I don't know if you remember. I want to say it here publicly. I have to remember to call Uri today. Is that one of the nicest toichachas we ever heard was on Uri's son's bar mitzvah. Uri's son, his bar mitzvah was on Bahar B'Chukaisai, I believe, and his son laid the toichacha. I don't know if anybody remembers it, but it was the first time I ever heard every word. Okay, let's see what the Gemara says right here. What is Uri's son's name? The one who had the bar mitzvah B'Chukaisai. Does anyone remember?
I don't know. He has a Menachem and a Yitzchak. But my son named Kisavai also, so there's another one.
Uh-huh.
Now that Yosy Zalman, now that you heard every word, how do you behave?
I have yet to plant my field on Shemitah. Okay. Zok tehel gemor weiter. Zok tehel gemor. Zok gemor. Rav and Shmuel both say the Amrit Havayu must nisen betinuk shenishba lebein hanachim. So it's very interesting because if you look at our Mishnah, and the Gemara is going to deal with this in a minute, If you look at our Mishnah, the Mishnah says, Kol hasheichayich ikar Shabbos. Someone who forgets that there was Shabbos. So the Gemara is going to be died from there that he must have once upon a time known that there was Shabbos, and then he forgot about Shabbos. But that's not how Rav and Shmuel originally approached the Gemara, approached the Mishnah. And it's not even how Rav and Shmuel approached the Mishnah Lamashkan either. Rav and Shmuel, the Amrit Habayu, masnisen betinik shenishba levein hanachim. Our Mishnah that says someone forgot about Ikar Shabbos, it's referring to somebody who was nishba bein hanachim. And Rashi tells us, and that means v'lo yoda Shabbos mo'elam. Thank you very much. And he never ever knew that there was such a thing called Shabbos, or a ger shenaskayir levein hanachim, or a ger that became a ger amongst goyim. So again, he never ever knew that there was an issue of Shabbos. Aval hikar ulu b'soif shakach. But if somebody knew in his lifetime that there was such a concept of Shabbos, and then he forgot that there's anything at all out there called Shabbos, that would be chayiv al kol Shabbos for Shabbos. That would be chayiv in every Shabbos. So if someone actually forgot that there's such a thing called Shabbos, that's no different than forgetting that today is Shabbos, and therefore he would be chayiv for every Shabbos. The only time you say that you only have to bring one chatas on all of the prior Chilul Shabbos is someone who never knew that there was something that was called Shabbos.
Does that jive with what Rashi said before?
What did Rashi say before that would seem to contradict this? Well, Rashi described, if you're talking about the Rashi that says why you bring a chatas for each Shabbos, because she for sure would have known in between that a Shabbos passed. So all Rav and Shmuel are saying is that that's one case that you bring multiple chatois, but if you also completely forgot that there was such a thing called Shabbos, that would also require, that's not the case of the Mishnah, but that would also require that you bring a chatos for every Shabbos. So the Gemara asks now, Tnan, Hashekeach Ikar Shabbos, Lav, Mechlal, the Havila Yedim Me'akar. You, Rav and Shmuel, who want to say that once you ever knew that there was a concept of Shabbos, you're going to always be chayav for every Shabbos. That's not what our Mishnah says. Our Mishnah says Hashekeach, meaning you knew about it and then you forgot. So why are you, Rav and Shmuel, only limiting the case of the Mishnah to a case where someone never knew about Shabbos? Zok the Gemara, perfect Gemara, Lav Machlal Lav Yedim Me'akar, Lo Zok the Gemara. My Kol Hashekeach Ikar Shabbos. What does the Tana mean? The Tana said someone who forgot Ikar Shabbos. It doesn't mean he knew it and he forgot it. Rather, it means the Hoya Shekuach Mimenu Ikar Shel Shabbos. Kol Hashekeach means someone who never knew Ikar Shel Shabbos. Aval Ikar Ulu B'Soiv Shakach. So you want to say that the first case of the Mishnah is actually not referring to somebody who knew about Shabbos and forgot it was Shabbos. It's only speaking about somebody who never knew there was Shabbos. But in fact, you knew about the concept of Shabbos, and then you forgot that there was ever something called Shabbos. What do you suggest? Chayiv kol Shabbos for Shabbos. You'd be chayiv for each Shabbos. Well, then, if that's the case, and I think this is what Duli might have been alluding to, then atetoni hayodea ikar Shabbos, but also malachas harbe, v'shavosas harbe, chayiv kol Shabbos for Shabbos. The second case that the Mishnah lists that does mandate a separate chatos for each Shabbos is in a case where you never forgot that there was such a concept called Shabbos. All that you forgot was that today was Shabbos. And the Mishnah skips over this case in the middle, where you once knew that there was something called Shabbos, and then you forgot that there was ever anything called Shabbos. That case does not get addressed by the Mishnah. And since Rav and Shmuel holds that in that case you would also bring a separate chatos for each Shabbos, the Tana should have said a greater chiddush in the second case. Listnei hikar ulu b'soiv shokach. The Tana should have told us that even if it's hikar ulu b'soiv shokach, meaning when you did the avera, you didn't even know that there was something called Shabbos, and even there you'd have to bring a separate chatos for each Shabbos, the way Rav and Shmuel understand it. And the kol shekein ha. And surely in the case of our Mishnah, where you never forgot that there was something called Shabbos, what happened merely is that each Shabbos you forgot that today was Shabbos. Surely there you would also bring a chatos for each violation. So why is it that the second case of the Mishnah is only mentioned that you forgot that today was Shabbos, if the same halacha would apply, even if you forgot that there was such a concept of Shabbos at all. So the Gemara, that's exactly what the second case of the Mishnah means to say. My hayodeya ikra Shabbos, it means misha hayodeya ikra shel Shabbos v'shakra. That's exactly what it means. So you see how once you start kvetching pshat in the first case of the Mishnah, it's like a lie. I'm not saying it's a lie. This is emes lamidas, but it's like a lie. When you lie, you have to start building upon your lie to keep on justifying and being amish your first lie. And that's why they say liars have to have a very good memory, because they have to constantly figure out how to change their story to match. So that's what's happening over here.
And not just that, they have to remember what lie they told to who.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And that's the problem that the Democrats are having now. It's amazing how our Gemara is so political. It doesn't stop. But
don't you find that these terutzim are kind of lame? It doesn't mean forgot. It says forgot, but it doesn't mean forgot.
You're going to see all well that ends well. It's going to work out good at the end. But right now, the Gemara is saying.
What's the Havamina though? What's the Havamina is weak. That's
It's difficult to understand how, in order to justify a shita, we mamish twist ourselves into a pretzel to make it fit into the words. But that's the mahalach of the Gemara. This is our it's been our bonnet for a long time, because my
right.
I was telling me that pshat is a combination of a logical argument and it has to fit into the words. And if those two things work, then you have pshat. But if it's the most logical argument in the world, but it doesn't fit into the words, that doesn't work as pshat. But this is the Havamina Gemara. Zok Gemara. So my hayodei ikra Shabbos. What does the Tana mean when the Tana introduces the second case of hayodei ikra Shabbos? It means shahaya yodeya ikra shel Shabbos. He knew that there was a concept of Shabbos, the shakra, and he forgot the concept of Shabbos. So now, again, there's two middle cases where you bring a carbon for each Shabbos. A is where you knew that there was something called Shabbos and you forgot the whole concept of Shabbos. There you bring a separate chatos for each Shabbos. And if you never forgot that there was a concept of Shabbos, but each Shabbos you forgot that today is Shabbos, that would have the same halacha. There you would also bring a chatos for each one. And at this point in the Gemara, we're saying that what the Tana meant when he quoted the second case of me, Shayodei Ikra Shabbos, the Tana is referring to a person who forgot that there was even a concept of Shabbos. And that's what the Tana means. So the Gemara, my Hayodei Ikra Shabbos, it means Misha Hayodei Ikra Shel Shabbos, V'shakha, and he forgot. Ava loy shakha. What if he didn't forget it? In other words, what about the case that we understood as being the second case, where I never forgot about the Ikra Shel Shabbos? All that happened is that I forgot that today was Shabbos. Chayiv al kol malacha malacha. You'd be chayiv for each malacha. Why is the Gemara saying that? Why can't that have the same malacha as the middle case? So Rashi speaks out, because if these are two distinct cases, one case is where you keep on forgetting about the concept of Shabbos, and B is you keep on forgetting that today is Shabbos. Why is it that the Tana didn't specifically mention both those cases? The way we're talking, the Tana either means one or the other, but not both. So if you're going to learn now what the Tana meant in the second case is someone who knew about Ikra Shabbos and then forgot about Ikra Shabbos, that means the Tana never even talked about a case where a person kept on forgetting that today's Shabbos. So since the Tana didn't mention that, I would say that Chayiv al kol malacha malacha. Then I would say that now gets bumped to the third category, where you'll be mechuyev in every malacha if you continue to forget that today is Shabbos. And if that's the case, then I'm going to ask a kasha on the third case of the Mishnah. Adatani hayodeya shu Shabbos va'asa malachas harbe v'shabbosas harbe chayiv al kol malacha malacha. The Tana was only able to find a case that would be mechayiv yochadas for every individual malacha is if you were not shogeg b'Shabbos, but you were shogeg b'malachas. But according to what we're saying now, you have a case where even if it's shogeg b'Shabbos, you'd be chayiv for every malacha. And that was the case of a listener hayidei ikra Shabbos v'chol shkeina madach b'hayidei ikra Shabbos. But you forget every week of Shabbos, you bring multiple chatois. Surely, if you do multiple malachas, you'll bring multiple chatois. So because of that, the Gemara has to now reapproach how we understand the Mishnah. Let's go back to the beginning. The first Mishnah is a hikr l'psoi shokach. So Rav and Shmuel at first wanted to say that our Mishnah, the first case of our Mishnah, is speaking in the case of a Tinnik Shenishba, where he never knew, that's not true. Even Rav and Shmuel agrees that the first case of the Mishnah is Pashat Pshat, that you knew that there was something called Shabbos, and then you forgot that there was something called Shabbos. So now everything fits into place the way it's supposed to be. And the Rav and Shmuel's case is actually a halacha, but it's not one of the cases that's discussed in the Mishnah. With Rav and Shmuel Nami, kehikr ulubsov shakach dami. So all that's happening is they're adding a case to the Mishnah, and they're saying as follows: not only if you knew about Ikar Shabbos and you forgot about Ikar Shabbos, which is the first case of the Mishnah, not only there do you bring only one chatos, but Rav and Shmuel extend the halacha of the Mishnah to an additional case. Afilu tinik shenishba bein hanochim v'ger shneskayer lebein hanochim. You might say that should be potter and gansen. Nevertheless, Zokt Rav and Shmuel that these individuals would also have to bring a korban chatos kehikar ulebesoif shakach dami the chayiv, and it would be chayiv as well.
Is that are they chayiv to the same level as the Mishnah, or are they bringing like is that part?
Chayiv chatos. It would be chayiv chatos.
So it was this case of Rav and Shmuel is included in the case of the Mishnah.
No, it's not included. They're just saying that the same halacha that the Mishnah said about the case of Yoda v'Shakach, we're saying that also applies to a case of Shachach Meikari.
Yosy, how can a ger be miskar ben a nachar?
That's a good question. Because Tosfos asks,
if he was, then he's not a ger, and then he's not supposed to keep Shabbos if he wasn't megar properly.
So what it must mean is they were able to convene a bezdin in a
By
Goyish
Zoom?
land. In a Goyish land, no, even physically, they were able to convene it, and they made someone into a ger, and then they left, and he remained where he was. That's why whenever someone's applying for gers,
wait a minute, they made someone into ger and he didn't know about Shabbos? How's that possible?
He never learned.
They can make someone a ger and he doesn't know about Shabbos? Like today, I'm
not saying
go
that
through
it's
a year of questions. And
I'm not saying that it's appropriate. And that's why there's a hakpada that they will not be megayer somebody unless that person moves to a proper Jewish community, precisely because of this. How do you expect to
Okay. I mean, there's a hypothetical case, or there's like a real.
It must be. You want to know if such a thing ever happened?
No, I'm just saying they're just.
You know that guy that was living in the DYLive for a while. You know he was living. You know what I mean? You know the guy. Now he's back in Pickering. Eitan. Yeah.
Then he had a.
Now he's back in Pickering. He's a guy who's living among the Gerim again. I mean, I'm in the going.
His Eitan. He had Eitan like von Strasberg, and he changed his name to Eitan Goldstein or something.
Right.
I think he changed his name to a Jewish name.
Bloomberg.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Bloomberg is better. Yeah.
I think he sends his kids to the cheder or something. I don't know if he drives them in from Pickering every day. Well, not anymore.
Yeah, that was a long time. Okay. Yeah, so it's probably not a common thing. Tosfos, I believe, asks, why didn't say he was Niskaya by himself? Teretz is he can't be Niskaya by himself. You got to have a bezdin there.
That's what I'm saying. If there was a bezdin, I don't know how he could not know about Shabbos. So
Rashi says, so look at the Tosfos at the bottom of Samach and Aleph. It's a one-liner. Gersh Niskaya b'fnei gimel. They were Megayer in front of a bezdin of 3, but v'loy hoidi'u mitzvah Shabbos. They never taught him about the mitzvah of Shabbos. And he just remained there amongst the goyim. If he became a ger by himself, it's not a do-it-yourself project. It has to be done only through a bezdin. Okay, so that's what the Gemara says. Now the question is, what is the chiddush of Rav and Shmuel that they're telling us that someone who never knew about Shabbos, a tinik shenishba, that he also brings the chatos? So Rashi speaks out that don't say like Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish that we're about to quote. Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish, the Amri Tevayu, Dafke Hikar Ulubasoif Shokach. Our Tana deliberately chose a case where he once knew about Hilchos Shabbos and then you forgot. About Tinik Shanishba, but Rav and Shmuel's case, that the Tana, everybody agrees is not talking about that. About Tinik Shanishba, the Nachum, the Gersh, the Skyla, the Nachum, Potter. That would be Potter. Why would it be Potter? Rashi says, the Kasavi Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish, that Oimer Mutter Onasu, and this goes back to what David Zoltan said earlier, Oimer Mutter is only someone who never knew that this was ever an Isser. But once you knew it was an Isser, then already you're liable because you should have done your research. The only time you're a potter from doing research and we call you an oidis is if you never ever knew that there was such a thing. That's not called a shogig. That's what Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish say. But Rabbi Shmuel says that that's also a chiyuv chatos. Saying you never heard of Shabbos is not either an excuse, because it's incumbent on you as a Jew to explore and get clear all of the chiyuvim that the Torah gives you as a Jew. This is going to be a problem. I believe Tosfos brings that up. This is going to be a problem because we're going to soon see that it's not that the Gemara says that Rav and Shmuel, that Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish will hold that your potter by Tinuk Shenishba is not because of Omer Mutter, it's because of Psukim. But we'll see soon. Zok the Gemara weiter. So now we have Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish, Damri Tavayu, Davke Hikr Lobsev Shokach, Aval Tinuk Shenishba Ben Enochem, the Gershon Eskar Ben Enochem Potter will be Potter, and Rashi tells us because it's Omer Mutter, and that is Oinus. Meisvei, Klal Gadol, Omer B'Shabbos. We're quoting a Brisa. There's a great cloud that was said by Shabbos. Kol HaShekeach Iker Shabbos. Anybody who forgot that there's anything called Shabbos. But also Malachas Harbe, B'Shabbos Harbe, Einei Chayiv Ela Achas will only be Mechuyev one carbon chatos. Ketzad. Let's get into the details of what this case is. Tinik Shenishba Lebein Hanachim, V'Ger Sheniskayer Bein Hanachim, but also Malachas Harbe, B'Shabbos Harbe, Einei Chayiv Ela Chatos Achas. So this Brisa is clearly expressing the opinion of Rav and Shmuel, because the Brisa explicitly states that even a Tinik Shenishba brings a carbon chatos, which is a direct contradiction with what Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish said. We'll get back to this question in a second, but now we'll just finish off the rest of the Brisa. Al Adam Achas, if someone never knew about the Isser Dam, and all his life he ate Dam, and then he found out that Dam was Asur, all those Achilas Asuris of Dam would only be Mechayiv him one carbon chatos. The same thing would be with Chalev, as David mentioned, if he would live long enough, because all that cholesterol would have taken him out before he had a chance to violate it too much. V'al Avodah Zarah Achas, same thing would be with Avodah Zarah. Munbas Poiter. But Munbas felt that these cases would be potter. The Kachoye Munbas Don Lefnei Rabbi Kiva, and this is what Munbas used to argue to Rabbi Kiva. He would say as follows: Hoylu Mezid Koruchote. Since the Torah refers to somebody who did an Isser b'Mezid, the Torah calls him a Chote, and Rashi leads us to the specific pasuk by Shavuos Ha'edis. It says Nefesh Ki Sechta V'Shama, and that's speaking about Mezid. It doesn't say V'Nelam over there. So you see the word Chet describes an Aver that's been Mezid. The Shogig Koruchote, and we know by a Shogig is always called a Chet. So you see that there's a big similarity between Mezid and Shogig. Ma Mezid Shahosh Lo Yediyah, just like by Mezid, where he knew about it before, he knew at one point before he did the Avera that this Avera was Asur. Av Shogig Shahosh Lo Yediyah. Therefore, even a Shogig, I hold you're only ever Mulchi V'Chatos if you knew before. So I just want to pause here for a second. So Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish, who hold that a Tinik Shenishba doesn't bring the Carbon Chatos, would be consistent with Munbaz, who holds because of a pasuk. Munbaz holds because of a pasuk that compares Shogig to Mezid, that you're only chayiv a carbon for a Shogig if you once knew before, and that's the machlokes apparently between Rabbi Kiva and Munbaz, because Rabbi Kiva wants to say if you knew before. That if you didn't, even if you never knew before, you would be chayiv or shogig, and Munbas is saying not, because you have to compare it to Mezid. You're only going to be mechuyev if you once knew about it before. Zok Rabbi Kiva, you're saying that the halachas of shogig are similar to halachas of Mezid, and you're saying in what way are they similar? That at least before you violated the Isser, at one point you must have known that this is Asur. Why stop there? Once you want to compare the two, compare them more. If you're suggesting to compare Shogig to Mezid, well then let's go all the way in. Imam Mezid, just like by Mezid, it's called a Chet. If you actually knew while you were doing the Aveir that you were doing a Maisa that's Asur, well maybe I've Shogig Shosha Lo Yediyah B'Shas Maisa. Well then if that's the case, then there shouldn't be any difference between Shogig and Mezid. But Shogig should also be that you know about it. Well then you're going to ask, so what is Shogig? If it's exactly the same thing, what is the distinction between Mezid and Shogig? We'll get there. But Rabbi Kiva thought that this would force Munbas to abandon his comparison between Shogig and Mezid. And Munbas says, no, I'm all in. I agree with you. I'm all in. You're right. V'chol shekain soisafta. Good for you. I agree with you. I hold that for a shoygig, in order for you to be mechuyev achatas for a shoygig, not only did you once know it's usher, while you're doing the avera, you have to know that it's usher. So Amaloi, so Rabbi Kiva said that makes no sense. So then you're saying, I know that I'm doing an avera, and that's called shoygig? Well, that's amazing. So we have a problem now with munbaz. What is the distinction between shoygig and mezid? And we'll get there. Katanimia, we learned this brisa, this long brisa, Ketzat Tinuk, and the brisa says beferish that a Tinuk shenishba, you also bring a carbon chatas. Bishlam Rav Shmuel Nicha. Rav and Shmuel, they said that a Tinuk shenishba has the same halacha as somebody who knew about the concept of Shabbos and then forgot that there was ever such a thing called Shabbos. They said that Tinuk Shenishba would be parted from Achatas. This brisa says black and white that a Tinuk Shenishba is Chayav Achatas. Amri Lach, Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish, Loi Mi'ika Munbas the Potter. Don't you have a Tana in the very brisa that you're asking me a kasha from? You quoted a Tana Munbas, who in fact says that it would be Potter. And then Darminika Munbas, we are like Munbas, that if there's no Yudiyah before, there's no Chiyav at all. Now we need to get into Munbas, because Munbas is a very difficult shita, because Munbas right now does not make a distinction between Shagi and Mezid. So Zoktakumar, my time at the Munbas, what is the svara of Munbas? The Chsivit says, Torah achas yilachem la'isa b'shkava. At one point it says, and this pasuk is by Avodah Zarah, by a carbon Avodah Zarah, it's comparing everything together. The Samachle, and near it, the pasuk says, which is talking about Mezid. Hikish Shagig Mezid. So the Torah clearly is trying to teach us a link between Shagig and Mezid. So now it's not just a binyan av anymore, that from logic we're saying that Shagig and Mezid has the same halacha. We actually have a hekish that's forcing us to say that Shagig and Mezid have to have similar circumstances. Ma Mezid shahoy shelo yediyah, av Shagig shahoy shelo yediyah. So I have a pasuk that forces me to say that. I have a hekish, so I don't have a choice. So you're right. What I'm saying might not be logical, but I'm forced into it. For Rabbanim, hi Torah achas my avdilay. What is the Rabbanim going to learn? They clearly don't want to learn that Mezid and Shogig have the same halachas. So how do they learn this pasuk? So they needed to teach us the same limud that Rabbi Shua ben Levi taught his son from this pasuk, and this is what he learned. Torah achas yilachem loisa b'shkova, which is referring to the parasha of Avodah Zarah. Uchsiv, the pasuk also says v'chisishku v'loy sasu. It's called a mitzvah sa'ila, and that's speaking about a chatas for all the different averis in the Torah that you bring a chatas for. Uchsiv, right near the pasuk of Avodah Zarah, v'anevesh hashatase v'yod rama, which is now amazing. So now what we're doing is we're comparing all of the different isurim of the Torah to Avodah Zarah. Hokshu kulam l'Avodah Zarah. We're being makish everything to Avodah Zarah, A, and B is we're going to learn something new about Avodah Zarah. So we're A, going to learn something about Avodah Zarah, and that limit that we're going to learn by Avodah Zarah is going to be exported to all the other various in the Torah. Mala halal, just like by the Chet of Avodah Zarah, it talks about bringing a carbon for a shogig and getting killed for a mezid. The only thing that you bring a carbon chatas for is something that if you did it the mezid, you would be chayiv koris. Afkol, so to any shogig where the Torah mandates a carbon chatos, it's only something that's dover shechayovin al zadoini koris. Only if the mezid oynish where the aver is koris or more, only then will you say bal shebagos chatos. So now we have two different limudim from this pasuk. Munbas learns from this pasuk that you had to have known about it even b'shas ma'aseh, just like a mezid, and the chachamim learn from this pasuk that you only bring a carbon chatas on the type of averis that could lead to kares. But at the end of the day, how does Munbas make a distinction between shogig and mezid? In both cases, you have to know that you're doing something wrong while you're doing it. What is the shogig? What didn't I know? All that happened is I know it's usher to do this. What I didn't know that if I do it b'shogig, I bring a carbon. So I know it's usher to do this aveir. I'm going to do it anyway, but I happen not to know that if you do it b'shogig, you get a carbon. That's why I bring a carbon and not chayv misa, because I didn't know that you bring a carbon, which is unbelievable. So the Yedei Shechayiv as Doine Karis, any Yedei Shechayiv Ola Chatos. So I'm doing it b'mezid, and I know it's usher, and I know doing it b'mezid gets me a Chiyav Karis. Yet I didn't know one detail of the halacha. I didn't know that if I would have done it b'shoigig, that I would only be Chayiv Chatos. That's why I'm only Chayiv Chatos, which is very difficult to me, because to me it sounds like circular logic. Because I know if I did it b'mezid, I'm Chayiv Karis, but I didn't know if you do it b'shoigig, you're Chayiv Korban. Well, what is shogig? Shogig means not knowing that there's a korban. So it's like a stickle circular logic, but if you do it in a very fully aware that it's usher, even knowing there's a chiv misa, but if you didn't know that shogig brings a korban chatos, then you're potter from the korban chatos.
Maybe he's saying he doesn't know what the punishment is at all, period, even the
That's not what Rashi says.
It's not what
Rashi says, the shogig korban, the yodea shechayiv as doine kares. Any yodea shechayiv lechatos. And he doesn't even know what a shogig is.
I don't think it's circular logic, though. I don't think it's circular logic. It's outside his actual box. He's basically saying, I know it's I'm doing it b'mezid, but had I done it b'shogeg in let us say,
well, what does shogeg mean?
Case,
what do you mean? Had I done it b'shogeg?
Right, but in another case, had I known that had I done this b'shogeg, that I would have been chayav chatos.
That's why I don't understand Rashi's shot. It should be that he doesn't know what the punishment is, period. Or that there is a punishment, or what it is.
I hear.
To know what it is, but I'm doing it, and I know what I'm doing. But if I happen to do it b'shogeg, then I don't know what that punishment is. It makes sense.
I don't understand. I find it difficult to understand. So, Rabbanon says shigul das korban lo yishma shogeg. That's not called shogeg. Shogeg means not knowing that it's usher. Rabbanon shogeg avamai. So according to the Rabbanon, what would constitute the shogeg? The Rabbi Yochanan Amar going to shogeg b'karis. Avgu shizib b'lav. So is saying l'chiddush. Even though I know that I'm not allowed to do this, I'm doing a malach on Shabbos. I know I'm not allowed to do it. I just happen not to know that there's a chiyav misa for it. That's enough to make it a shogeg. And because I didn't know that there was a chiyav misa, I didn't know the chomer of the inyan. That alone will pater me from a korban. Rish Lakish Amar acha yishkek b'lav v'karish. Rish Lakish holds it's not a shogeg if you knew that what you were doing was usher. It's only a shogeg if you didn't even know that it was usher, which is how we all understand the classic interpretation of shogeg. Amar Rava, my taima, the Rab Shimon ben Lakish. What is the reason for Rab Shimon ben Lakish? Amar Kra. So what is this for Rab Shimon ben Lakish that you have to not know that it was usher at all? Because Amar Kra, asher lo yisei asena v'ashim. If someone does an avla that he wasn't supposed to do, it says in the pasuk, v'im nefesh achas techla b'shloga me'am ha'aretz ba'soisa. Someone did something that he was not supposed to do, but and he became guilty because of it. So he died in that pasuk. Since it's asher loy seyasena, it teaches us that in order for you to be chuyav a korban, you also have to know that loy seyasena. You had to know that it was usher to do. If you didn't know that it was usher to do, then only that would be a shogeg. Rabbi Yochanan Hakra, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish my obedlei. What is Rabbi Yochanan going to do with that pasuk? Rabbi Yochanan knows even if you know it's usher to do, you're still going to be potter from a korban if you didn't know that there's a chiyav misa for it. So he learns a different halacha. Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, let me boil it. It says me'am ha'aretz. It says if a person me'am ha'aretz from amongst the people of the land doing a vera prat lemumer, that excludes a mumer, someone who doesn't care and will willingly violate a veris. If he happens to do an aver b'shogeg, he doesn't even bring a korban. A mummer is someone who's boit mitzvahs doesn't bring a korban, even if it was b'shogeg. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, I remember Rabbi Shimon, and I believe he's explaining why a mummer doesn't bring a korban, because it says asher lo yisei asena v'ashim. That means he did a mitzvah, he did an aver that he shouldn't have done, and because he became guilty. So we learn from here that ashav miyidiyasai may be korban. It's asher lo yisei asena. Had he known that he wasn't allowed to do it, he would not have done it. But what if it's a guy who, even had he known that he wasn't allowed to do it, he would have done it anyway? Then maybe korban al shogosai. But lo yishav midiyasai, any maybe korban al shogosai. So actually, now I remember from an earlier Gemara the difference between Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar and the Tanna Kama is that Tanna Kama holds only a mummer who violates and violates the whole Torah. Even if he does keep this mitzvah, but he violates the whole Torah, that's enough to say that he never brings a korban chatas. Someone who's a mummer doesn't do any mitzvahs, he doesn't bring a korban chatas. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar says no. Even if he keeps every other mitzvah in the Torah 100%, but this mitzvah specifically he doesn't care about. So there, if he did this b'shogeg, he wouldn't have the kapara of a korban chatos because he's not shav me the Yosy. The only time you bring a carbon chatas for an avera is if you would have refrained from doing the avera had you known that you weren't allowed to. And since you would not have refrained from doing the avera anyway, you do not have a carbon chatas for your avera. I'm sorry for going so much over, but to stop in the middle would have been mamish. We're in the middle of munbas. We're in the middle of figuring out what is shogig. It's such a crazy thing. Like you have to know that you're doing an isser, and that's shogig. So I had to get to the punchline that the shogig is because I didn't know that I'd be mechuyev of a carbon if I did it b'shogig.
Who's Munbaz?
Who is he?
Yeah, who is Munbaz?
I don't know. He was a Tana.
He was a Tana? I thought he was a king.
Maybe he was both.
He's
Okay.
a liberal.
Okay.
Yeah,
Jesse, are you
I
still
think I heard
recording?
Munbas Hamelech.
Jesse, are you still recording?
Yeah, if you'd like, I will stop the recording right now. So let me stop the recording. Stop live stream.
Did you see I sent you a